And welcome back to this Tuesday edition of AFA Today. Fred Jackson sitting in for Kevin McCullough just for today. As you mentioned, I don't think Kevin is rushing to get his taxes done. I'm sure he's a very efficient fellow. He's away today. Going to do a program on Fox News, as far as I know. 12:23 Central Time. I sure hope you have your taxes done by now. 888-589-8840. We're asking the question today on this tax day, 2014. What would you do if you had the opportunity to rewrite the tax code? What would you do? And we started off the program talking about a new Gallup poll out today, which basically says the majority of Americans, 52%, say they pay too much federal income tax. And just before we go back to our phones, a little bit more on this survey I found very interesting. Looking at the partisan divide, Democrats were the only group in which a majority, 55%, said their taxes are about right. A majority of Republicans and independents said their taxes are too high. Furthermore, 69% Democrats were significantly more likely than Republicans, 46%, and independents, 51%, to say their taxes are fair. Now, of course, what does that reflect? Well, that reflects, folks, the ideological divide in all of this. The Democrat Party, for years now, being the champion of government involvement in people's lives without apology. And this latest Gallup poll just reflects that once again. And we have seen that in spades over the last 5 or 6 years. The growth in government programs. We were mentioning just before the break about the number of Americans now on food stamps. 46,609,000. Dramatic growth just in the last 5 years. We said back in 1969, there were only about 3 million people on food stamps. Dependence on the government has a great deal to do with how you feel about taxes. But here's the problem, folks, in all of that equation. It is the people who feel they're paying too much taxes that are paying the bills for everybody else. And it's the folks that are paying very little taxes. The percentage of people paying no taxes at all has also increased. And what does that do? That puts an extra burden. And folks, you will find on the income spectrum, those who make very little money don't pay any taxes, and those who make a whole pile of money and have enough, they're making enough money, and this has always bothered me, that they can take advantage of all kinds of little tax loops in the tax code. And it's us folks, let's face it, right in the middle, the so-called middle class, that just bears the increasing burden. And people say, well, okay, those people making $75,000 a year, let's say, they shouldn't be complaining. But here's the problem. Their tax bill is going up more and more and more. And what happens? After a while, folks, and history has shown this, as people's tax bills go up more and more, their salaries go, they say, what is the point of working hard to advance myself? Because if I make $10,000 more next year by advancing myself, getting that promotion, whatever the case, the government will just take more of my money. And you get this staleness that begins to occur. And that's what we're talking about today. 888-589-8840. If you had a chance, rewrite tax code, what would you do? Had some great suggestions before that first break. First one was Planned Parenthood. Let's stop the subsidy to Planned Parenthood. The Department of Education, our caller from Louisiana a few moments ago, is exactly right. Education needs to be kept at the home base. There should be a direct relationship between parents and the school board, and that's where the power should involve. But that's not the case. In the last several years in particular, school lunch programs, billions of dollars in federal dollars tied to that, and also Common Core. Billions of dollars schools are being basically paid to take on this Common Core. So school districts that feel they need more money are buying into this. Great suggestion. Department of Education, we don't need it. Let parents and local school districts look after that. All right, let's go back to our phones, 888-589-8840. And let's go to Arkansas and Bill. Bill, welcome to the program. Bill, are you with
Hello?
us? Go ahead.
Hello?
Yes, go ahead, Bill.
I just wanted to make a point. One gentleman already made a point that about Congress, politicians, they always bring up the point about what they should cut on programs. They never bring up the point about cutting their own salaries.
Yeah.
They always increase their salaries year to year by their own vote.
Bill, I don't know if you heard, there was a Democrat who was retiring from Congress. I think it was last week. Now, they make about $140,000 a year, and he said that's not enough. We need more money. Unbelievable. $140,000, and that's not enough. We want more money out of the taxpayers' pockets.
Well, my solution, personal solution, would be this: is what they used to call I think it was called a fair tax.
Mm-hmm.
You know, a flat tax. My apologies, a flat tax.
Yeah.
Across the board. I figured out just the other day, before you even started this conversation today, that 32% of my paycheck goes to taxes.
Yeah.
Before I even get my paycheck,
Yeah.
32% of it already goes to taxes. That excludes the taxes that I have to pay when I go down and buy groceries. When I go down and buy gas.
Yeah.
So, you know, I wouldn't be surprised if my income escalates over 50%, or at least pretty close, because it's already 32% before I even get my check, escalates close to 50% when I'm finished paying all the taxes for my livelihood.
Oh, absolutely. You know, you add your property tax into that. You add state taxes. By the way, there was the Tax Freedom Day. There was an announcement on that. That's coming up next Monday, April 21st. It's the latest it's ever been. What does that mean, Tax Freedom Day? That is the day, the first 111 days of this year, all the money that you have taken in represents all the taxes you will pay for this year. So every penny that you've received so far, up to next Monday, that is the national average next Monday of Tax Freedom Day. And what does that mean? That's the time from when you and I can start and say, actually, that money is going to go in my pocket. Up to that point, that all goes to our taxes, not just federal taxes, but state taxes, local taxes, you name it. And you're exactly right. You know, that 32% you talked about off your paycheck, that is just federal income taxes. And Americans are getting very wary of it, Bill. We thank you for making that excellent point of just how much Americans are tax burdened right now. Andy in West Virginia, welcome to the program. We're talking about where we can cut in the income tax code. What are your suggestions?
Is that me?
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
All right. I just wanted to go right back to the school lunch thing. My 12-year-old daughter is currently doing research and writing a petition to try to get our school district, public school district, to opt out of Michelle Obama's program.
Wow.
Because of the amount of food the kids are throwing away.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, my daughter is livid that she can't eat anything that's provided. And, you know, she's found out through research that there are some school districts that have opted out, and they're actually turning a profit on their programs versus throwing away food and losing money.
Yeah, we've actually done stories on that, our news service here. A number of districts across the country, and we're talking dozens of districts that are opting out of it because they notice the kids are throwing away the food. You know, it's the old saying, you know, you can't lead the horse to water but can't make them drink.
Well,
you know,
part of the reason
yeah, go ahead.
It away too is because they're requiring ridiculous things like they have to give a red vegetable on a specific day, a yellow vegetable on a specific day. And, you know, and I know you buy things when they're available, not just keep fruit. My kids say the fruit's rotten by the time they get it. The vegetables are wilted, and they don't want to eat it.
Yeah. Well, and there's so much involved with this, Andy, and we appreciate your comments. I'll let you listen off air. There's so much involved, just the school lunch program and what's happening out there. Read something the other day, I think, where even in the vending machines, I believe starting next year, they're only going to allow certain foods in those vending machines. Now, look, before somebody says, you know, shouldn't our kids be eating good foods? Absolutely. But you know what, folks? Here's the problem. they're taking away the freedom for us to choose. They're taking away the freedom for mom and dad. And I'm an advocate. Kids should go to school with a lunch that comes from home. I mean, there was this story, I think it was just last year, where the government wants to control what's sold at bake sales at schools. And one of the things that we're going to be banned, you can't bring chocolate brownies to sell at a bake sale because that's forbidden by federal regulations. This is the kind of thing, and it's all tied together. Your tax bill and more federal regulation, more and more control over your life from Washington. And that's a huge part of this. All right, we're asking the question, what would you do to rewrite the tax code to make it fair? And what do we really need the federal government doing for us? All right, let's go back to Louisiana and Clayton. Clayton, welcome to the program. Go ahead.
Hey, thanks, man. There's a lot of stuff I would cut, but I'd like to get back to the two things. The school lunch program. Mm-hmm. Michelle Obama has not been elected by one soul in this country to dictate anything to this country. Mm-hmm. So what gives her the right to interfere in the school lunch program? Mm-hmm. Had she been elected for that purpose, that's one thing. But she doesn't have the right, in my opinion, to dictate what a dog can eat in his dog bowl.
Well, I don't mind the First Lady making suggestions. That's fine. And deciding what her kids are going to eat there at the White House, that's fine. But when you start dictating policy to school districts, to local schools as to what you can serve the kids, that's scary.
Well, she has not been elected to represent anybody. And I'm not an Obama fan by any stretch of the imagination, but at least he was elected by the majority of the people. He has the right to be the president of the United States. She has the right to be first lady to socialize and host dinners and things like this. And that's all. My other thing is on taxes. When you go to work for somebody, they have a tax table. You're married and you have so many dependents, and they go over and down the amount of money you make and all of that. And they've got the tax table, and it shows how much they take out of your check every week. Why is that not enough? Mm-hmm. And that's really all I've got to say. Appreciate what you guys are doing.
All right, Clayton, thank you so much. Some great suggestions there. 888-589-8840, 888-589-8840. Want your suggestions. We all complain about taxes, but what are your suggestions on where we could cut as a nation so that we would rid the nation of this tremendous and growing tax burden that, let's face it, not all Americans are paying taxes. As we were talking about before, there's a growing number of Americans paying no taxes at all. One of our callers suggested a flat tax. A lot of people have talked about that. Everybody pays 10%. That's it. No loopholes. Everybody, regardless of what you make, you pay 10%. A lot of people think that would be the fairest way to go. Frank in Kentucky, welcome to AFA Today. Go ahead.
Yes. I'm calling to also, we say that we want to reduce taxes, which is a good thing. Mm-hmm. But I wonder, first start, one place I really despise is that Planned Parenthood.
Yes.
That is killing millions of babies. And that's going on every day, mm-hmm. even now.
Yes.
So I wonder how much we say they want to get rid of the tax, straighten the taxes out. But how many people that get on the phone, and I'm not saying that no one is doing this, but how many people are actually praying about these situations? Mm-hmm. Because the Bible says you have not because you ask not.
Yeah.
So we need to go to God about these situations, and whatever that is going on today, we need to talk to God about it and keep on knocking and keep on seeking God, seek His face, because yep. we can complain about it, but we're complaining about it to a man mm-hmm. or to anyone else, that won't help. We need to complain to God about it, and He sees what's going on. We have to be diligent to seek His face.
Frank, I think that's a great suggestion. Always couple everything with prayer. But, God expects us to take action, too. And here's the sad part. Now, we've had 2 or 3 callers mention Planned Parenthood. Here's the sad story about this. Many, many people down through the years have complained both to Republicans and to Democrats about Planned Parenthood. Why in the world are we subsidizing the slaughter of unborn babies with taxpayers' dollars? As I say, about $300 million a year. It may be more than that if you add in various other factors, but at least $300 million a year. We have pleaded, Christians have pleaded with Republicans when they have been in power, and now with Democrats to end those subsidies, and they have refused to do so. Even when Republicans controlled both the House and the Senate and the White House, that did not happen. And you have to ask the question, why? And yes, that's where prayer comes in, that God would get a hold of the hearts of our lawmakers and they would see what they are doing. All right, we're asking the question, where would you cut taxes? Where do you want the federal government out of your life? 888-589-8840 is the number to call. You're listening to Fred Jackson sitting in for Kevin McCullough today here on AFA Today. It is tax deadline day, April 15th.